Right then, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Thought I'd do a few little videos, just a few general ramblings that I have with my mates on a regular basis. I thought I'll video a few of these, see if it's helpful to you guys out there, and feel free to leave comments. I'm going to walk through my local neighbourhood. You probably hear there's a bit of noise going on. I've got Bob the Builder in a minute, building a huge office block, so any noise I apologise now. But today, nose at wedges, why you've got them in the bag, what they do, how useful your wedge is to you. So yeah, listen up. I've been looking at wedge grinds sort of with my students, the guys that I'm coaching. I'm starting to pick out some pretty interesting stuff in bags and figuring out also why people carry what they carry. If you wonder what that noise is, massive building sites going on here. I'll skirt around that in a minute. But yeah, so wedges. I do loads of short game lessons over here, and one of the things that sort of amazes me when I look into people's bags is like the inadequacy of the tools that they've got, because that's what they are at the end of the day, the tools. Looking at guys with very little experience and girls that have almost no bounce on anything that might play a full shot. So you've got 8 degrees of bounce on the 50, 8 degrees of bounce on the sand wedge, and then they'll go to a lob wedge and it'll just be 14 degrees. Makes no sense. Okay, so I also notice when I'm doing the lessons just how poorly people understand what the wedge does. They just buy a wedge based on loft. So if someone says they need a sand wedge, they get a 56 or a 54. Someone says they need a lob wedge, invariably it's a 60. They don't really pay a lot of attention to the bounce, and when they do, they just pick a random mid number. So they always pick the S grind as the one, which is cool. I get that in some sort of scenarios. Now, when you start giving the lessons, the first thing I notice with people with low bounce, 9 times out, it's more than that, 99 times out of 100, they've got no chance in varied conditions. Hey, if it's baked hard, you play links golf, you go down to 4 degrees, 6 degrees of bounce, whatever grind you want. I mean, you're playing off hard pan. You know, the less bounce you've got in your lob wedges, the better. But in varied conditions, anywhere with grade, you're going to need a little help. And it sort of brings me on to really looking at what's been in the bag of the best players over the generations. Certainly the guys with the best short games, anyway. And I sort of use really a bit older. Sort of use the guys that have been right at the top of the tree, at the thick end, really. And that's Mickelson, Tiger, and then you could argue Scotty Scheffler. He seems to be the one that might be, taking the baton off Tiger and running with it, to be fair. If you look at their wedge setups over the years and what they play with predominantly, they all have bounce. Now, they all have bounce, but they're in different ways. So if you look at, we'll use Mickelson as an example. I mean, he's used all sorts of wedges over the years. Predominantly Callaway stuff. Worked a lot with Roger Cleveland, which is interesting because he's just gone back to his old original namesake company, Cleveland Golf. So it'll be interesting to see what those guys put out in the next sort of 5-10 years, with sort of Roger back at the forefront of designer wedges there. Now, Mickelson's a massive proponent of bounce. If you look at any of his specialist wedges over the years, PM grinds, some of the high toe stuff that he's done, if you look at the bottom of the club, you'll notice everything's 10 plus, 10, 12 degrees. And he also enhances a lot of that bounce with like a concave in the sole. You'll see like a dish in the physical back of the bounce, just to enhance the effect when the bottom of that club hits the ground. It just gives you that level of forgiveness. And he has always played slightly higher lofted wedges. You've seen him with 64s in the bag, 62s, almost always. There's something like that in there. But he very much leads with the hand forward. The handle's always going to be forward on his chips. You'll see him with his hinge and hold, and the way he describes it is his way. So that guy's carrying somewhere of about 10 degrees in his lob wedge, 12 degrees in his sand wedge. And then he goes down to full shot clubs thereafter. So he's matching up probably with what's in his pitching wedge for his gap wedge if he carries one. Then on to some guy called Tiger. and it's pretty easy to see what he's got, because you can actually go out and buy his wedges. Fortunate enough to go out and be able to get a mill grind. I think it's the 3 or the 4 that he's got out of it. It might be the 4 actually, the most recent one. I'm not sure if they're going to do an MG5 in it. I'm sure they do, but the specific ones that he uses are definitely in the MG3 and 4. And when you look at the sole of those clubs, there's a couple of things that are interesting. First is the number. You're going to see 10 and 11 degrees of bounce. Secondly is the width. He's got quite a lot of width on one, his lob wedge. It's quite, although it says 10 degrees of bounce on it, there's a heck of a lot of width between the back and the front of that bounce angle. Almost old school, a little bit like if anybody remembers a 588 Cleveland with the Tour Actions. If I'm not mistaken, it's something he used when he first came on tour, so probably no coincidence. So you've got Tiger with 10 degrees in his lob wedge, and that guy has been an absolute magician over the years, under the greatest of pressure with that club. He's 56, he's got 12 degrees of bounce. Okay, it's not got the width, it's got a versatile grind in it. There you see there's areas shaved off the toe, shaved off the heel on that club, so he's in double figures for his bounce. And then you go over to Scotty. He's making moves at the minute. That guy's got 14 degrees in his sand wedge and he's 56. No grind, just a big old lip, and he's played some of the best wedge shots over the last 10 years with that. And that one at the Masters where he clips up the hill to that back pin. Everybody thinks he's bladed it. Thing hooks up like it's on Velcro. And that's his 56. And in his lob wedge, he plays that new K-Star from Vokey, which is, although there's no bounce value on it, it reminds me very much of a little bit like the low bounce K. Might be a little bit narrower than that. I think it might be the K-Star that he's using, but I know he has used it one point with the low bounce K. That's a wide sole, okay, with quite a bit of camber on it, so there's that bit of curve to it as well. So 3 greatest players of the last 30 years, I would say, all using bounce. Begs the question, isn't it? If they're using bounce and you're not, and they're on the tally with a name written on the bag, it's a sign. There could be a few things we could pick up there from what's in the bag. Now, people look at bounce as forgiveness on a wedge. Kind of is, but I feel like grind is more forgiving than bounce. Example in question would be that you can take a very low bounce value and add width to the sole, and we're talking low bounce K here in the Vokey range, and I can give that to an absolute chopper, God bless them, and see great results. Now, if I was to give them a 6 degree bounce or a 4 degree bounce in, let's say, a T grind, or even an M grind, 8 degrees, that same player is digging. I mean, digging. So, the forgiveness a lot of the time can come from the width of the sole, the grind that's on the sole. It's important to note that. If you look at the idea that your golf bag's a tool bag, isn't it? You know, especially at the bottom end, the scoring end of the game, there's so many varied lies, there's so many little delicate shots. Once you're out of about inside 100 yards, even for the very best in the world, we're not hitting full shots, we're manufacturing stuff, we're making things work. Anybody that's a tradesman out there, you know, there's a reason why there's multiple tools in your bag, and you'll always have your favourite one that you use in certain spots when, you know, the proverbial hits the fan. I know how to fix this, I'll get this out. And it's the same with your wedges, and I don't really understand why people just go with the sort of linear gapping of 4 degrees or 5 degrees when there's something to be said for picking something based on what it's actually going to produce. So if you want a lob wedge specifically for tight scenarios around the green where you're playing off pretty hard pan lies, let's say you're at a links course and you just want a club that's going to get up in the air as quickly as possible, the bounce will have a bigger effect than the loft, because I can guarantee you an 8 degree bounce M grind in a 56 will be easier to launch up around the greens on 10-15 yard shots than a, let's go, 14 degree high bounce K grind on a 60. So you've got 4 degrees more loft on it, but a ton more bounce. You just, it's going to be a lot harder to hit that thing up in the air with that K grind sole, with that grind sole. So you've got to think about these things when you put together your bag. Come on, mate, you okay? It's okay. I nearly took me out. Yeah, so I think when you put your bag together, you need to be sort of mindful of what you're actually trying to do when you put that club in, and not think, well, it's a 60, I hit that 70 yards or 80 yards, whatever your number is. Because the chances of you needing to hit it that distance specifically each time is almost zero. It's all going to be half shots, and let's be honest, if your 60 degree wedge goes 70 yards, you know, on a relatively full shot, you tell me you can't hit your sand wedge that distance. Okay. Another thing that you'll notice when you do start to change grinds is the trajectory, how it comes out, different types of turf that you're using. You know, you've got to play around with these things and think long and hard about the shots that you actually play on a regular basis on your golf course, and build, instead of thinking of building a matrix of how far these things go, which is all well and good, I think you need to think more long and hard about how you save par or make birdie on par fives when you've made a mistake, because you are going to make mistakes. You are going to miss the green on the wrong side. You are going to find yourselves on upslopes into the grain. You've got to think about these things and figure out on your round of golf what's actually costing you shots. And I can guarantee your wedge game and the quality of equipment that you've got in your bag to suit what you need always needs looking at, always needs working on. So yeah, I think that's my sort of little rant for the morning. Get in your bag, have a nose at what you've got, and ask yourself genuinely, have I got the right grind? Have I got the right width of sole? Could I benefit from playing something that's actually going to give me ease of use on the shots that I actually use the club for? And don't be sort of drawn into this idea of needing 4 degree gaps in loft between your clubs to generate certain gaps. Half the time, once you've got down to a gap wedge, you're playing tiny little half shots anyway. So have a think, look at your conditions, let me know in the comments below what you're using, let me know where you've had some disasters and where you've had some wins. You know, tell me about some of the changes that you made or changes that you're going to be making. Let me know. Anyway, finish my coffee, take care.